This is America in the Morning from Westwood One. Good morning, I'm John Trout. Happy New Year. It's Wednesday, January 1st, 2025. Here's what's coming up on America in the Morning.
Nearly all of Puerto Rico is without power. I'm Ed Donahue.
A court ruling surrounding detainees at Guantanamo Bay. I'm Clayton Neville.
The plane carrying the Gonzaga University men's basketball team was apparently in a close call Friday on the runway at Los Angeles International Airport. I'm Jennifer King.
The U.S. is slapping sanctions on Russian and Iranian groups, Sagar Magani, Washington.
Residents of Columbus, Georgia, near Jimmy Carter's hometown of Plains, are remembering personal interactions they had with the 39th president, Imhaya Panjwani.
All ahead on America in the Morning. Hundreds of thousands of people gathered in Times Square last night, and millions around the world stayed up late to welcome in the new year. Nearly all of Puerto Rico is going through a power outage. Correspondent Ed Donahue has details.
Luma Energy says nearly 90% of its 1.4 million clients across Puerto Rico are in the dark, likely caused by a failure of an underground power line. Some clients had their power restored, including hospitals and Puerto Rico's water and sewer company. The San Juan airport remains open. These types of outages have been blamed on a crumbling power grid damaged by Category 4 Hurricane Maria in 2017. The White House says President Biden was briefed on the outage, and Energy Secretary Jennifer King spoke with Puerto Rico's governor and, at the president's direction, offered federal assistance to speed the restoration of power. Municipal worker Julio Cordova says he had to get dressed by the light of his cell phone and plans to buy candles. I'm Ed Donahue.
A military court is restoring the plea deals for the men accused of being the masterminds of 9/11. Correspondent Clayton Neville explains.
A military appeals court says that Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin cannot rescind the plea deals of detainees at Guantanamo Bay to include alleged 9/11 architect Khalid Sheikh Mohammed. According to the ruling, the plea deals reached by military prosecutors and by defense attorneys were valid and are enforceable. The court also said that Secretary Austin exceeded his authority when he tried to nullify those deals. The plea deals made over the summer drew criticism from politicians and from families of 9/11 victims. A hearing now scheduled next week at Guantanamo Bay. Mohammed and two other defendants could plead guilty in separate hearings. The Pentagon now has the option of going next to the D.C. Circuit Court of Federal Appeals. I'm Clayton Neville.
New York City police have identified the woman burned to death inside a subway train. Following the investigation, Correspondent Julie Walker.
Dabrina Kawam is the woman seen on video being burned to death on a New York City subway in Brooklyn on December 22nd. Mayor Eric Adams.
She had a brief stint in our homeless shelter system, our shelter system. And, our hearts goes out to the family, a horrific incident.
Sebastian Zepeda was arrested the same day and charged with murder. ICE says the 33-year-old is in the country illegally from Guatemala. Prosecutors say there's video of him lighting Kawam, who was apparently sleeping on the train, on fire, fanning the flames, and then sticking around and watching. Prosecutors say Zepeda told investigators he didn't remember because he'd been drinking. Julie Walker, New York.
The top stories of the day are sponsored by Sleep Number. And now it's the lowest price of the season on the top-selling i8 Smart Bed. Your best savings plus special financing, limited time. See store or sleepnumber.com for details. On notice for election interference when America in the Morning continues after these messages. This is America in the Morning. Santa's back, but this time it's Santa Ana wins. Here's AccuWeather.com meteorologist LaTroy Thornton.
Gusty winds funneling southward from high pressure over the southwest will present a continuing risk for Santa Ana winds over parts of Southern California today. This particular wind event will be focused mainly over areas to the north and west of downtown Los Angeles through today. This does not look like a particularly high-end Santa Ana event, with winds of 20 to 40 miles per hour for the most part. However, there is the potential for gusts to reach 60 miles per hour in some spots, and as always, the risk for crosswinds poses an inherent danger for motorists in the area, along with a heightened risk for fires. Farther to the north, the northwestern United States will be an active zone to start the new year, with plenty of snow showers dotting the interior as the storm pushes farther inland. The snow should be the most prevalent from Idaho and western Wyoming into far northern Utah through the day, but some snow showers should try to sneak into western Colorado today. Closer to the coast, some steadier rain can be expected from the northernmost parts of California into southwestern Oregon, with some snow more likely through the Cascades of Washington and Oregon, as well as Oregon's Blue Mountains. More showery precipitation can instead be expected from the northwestern part of Oregon into western Washington. The southern tier of the nation and even the center of the U.S. look dry today, ahead of the arrival of what's looking like an extended stay of some impressive cold. For today, that cold air will allow for the lake effect snow machine to crank up, mainly for the southern and eastern Great Lakes. Through Sunday, at least 1 to 3 inches of snow can fall over western lower Michigan, northeastern Ohio, and northwestern Pennsylvania into much of western and central New York, with rain at times today for the New England coast, mixing with snow farther inland. In Portland, Maine, steady rain becomes more intermittent through the day with a high of 43. For New Orleans, a cooler day is in store with some sun and a high of 60. I'm AccuWeather.com meteorologist LaTroy Thornton.
Remember to follow us wherever you get your podcasts. Apple, Spotify, Amazon, YouTube. Just search America in the Morning in your favorite listening app. I'm John Trout. Newly released audio recordings reveal there was a near miss on the runway at Los Angeles International Airport. Correspondent Jennifer King reports.
The plane carrying the Gonzaga University men's basketball team was apparently in a close call Friday on the runway at Los Angeles International Airport. In audio provided by the plane spotting livestream Airline Videos Live, you can hear an air traffic controller order the jet, operated by Key Lime Air, to stop to avoid a collision as it nearly crossed a runway while a Delta flight was taking off.
Key Lime, stop.
No one was injured, and the FAA has launched an investigation. In an email, the university said team members were unaware of the situation as it occurred, and they're grateful that the incident ended safely for all. The Bulldogs were on their way to a game against the UCLA Bruins, which they lost 65-62. It was the first college basketball game played at the Intuit Dome, the new home of the NBA Clippers. I'm Jennifer King.
The U.S. is implementing more sanctions against foreign entities with ill intent, attempting to influence November's presidential election. Correspondent Sagar Magani reports.
The U.S. is slapping sanctions on Russian and Iranian groups over efforts to target American voters with disinformation before last month's election. American intelligence has accused both Moscow and Tehran of trying to manipulate voters and undermine trust in elections. The Treasury Department says these sanctions are on organizations that work to stoke divisions among Americans. It says the Russian group's director worked closely with Moscow's military intelligence, and that the Iranian group is a subsidiary of Tehran's Revolutionary Guard. U.S. intelligence officials say while Russia tried to prop up eventual winner Donald Trump, Iran tried to oppose him. Both nations say they did not try to influence the election's outcome. Sagar Magani, Washington.
Banner year for stocks on Wall Street. The outlook for stock performance in 2025 when America in the Morning continues after these messages. Welcome back. You're with America in the Morning. The Business Report is brought to you by Fisher Investments. Fisher Investments takes a disciplined approach with investing, helping clients navigate volatile markets. Learn more at FisherInvestments.com. On this first day of the new year, here's CNBC's Jessica Ettinger.
Wall Street is closed today for this New Year's Day holiday, but investors partied last night hard to ring in the new year after strong gains for the second straight year. Here's the closing bell call from CNBC's Mike Santoli.
We're going to go out at approximately a 23% year-to-date gain, a little more than that, for the S&P 500. at the second straight year of approximately that gain on a total return basis with dividends, looking at 25%. So a great year.
Stock markets reopen tomorrow after the holiday. The major averages did limp to the close in the red yesterday, but the indexes notched big gains for the full year 2024. The Dow up 12%, the S&P 500 index up 23%, and the Nasdaq up a whopping 28%. For the S&P 500, the fund for which a lot of people have in their retirement accounts, it was the second year in a row it gained more than 20%, and that's extremely rare. It's only happened 3 other times in the last 100 years. In the 1930s, 50s, and 90s. And in 1996, 97, and 98, the S&P returned more than 20% 3 years in a row. And that was the only time that ever happened. So how about stock performance for the coming year? One investor says the new Trump administration's policies are already baked into stock prices, so business is going to be looking for those policies to be delivered.
We've got a setup that is very good into 2025 with lower expectations for regulation, business-friendly environment. A lot of that is in the price of stocks.
Aureus Asset Management's Carrie Firestone on CNBC. Investors with big 2024 gains may not start taking profits until tomorrow. They wanted to put off capital gains taxes for another year. So some experts say stocks could pull back in the next few weeks.
There's a good chance that January will see some selling here. I think a lot of people have accumulated some monster capital gains because of the capital gains taxes. There could be some rebalancing in January. We'll see how powerful this bull market is if it kind of overcomes that, which it might.
Yardeni Research's Ed Yardeni on CNBC. Even though Wall Street's closed today, you can buy and sell cryptocurrency. The crypto markets are always open. They never close. Bitcoin more than doubled in price in 2024. Some investors plan to buckle down today, the day off, to take time to look at their finances. The end of a year and beginning of a new one is when financial advisors often ask clients to make sure they have money goals and that their spending aligns with those goals. There's all kinds of help at CNBC.com. From all of us at CNBC, Happy New Year.
And to you, CNBC's Jessica Ettinger with the Wednesday Report. U.S. investigators are joining a probe into that fatal plane crash in South Korea. Correspondent Charles De Ledesma reports.
Jeju's CEO, Kim Ee-bai, has once again apologised to the victims and families, saying the company will do everything it can to ensure safety and regain customers' trust. Meanwhile, South Korea's Chief of Aviation, Jo Chong-wang, says 11 investigators from the Aviation and Railway Accident Investigation Board and 8 U.S. Joint Investigation Team members will begin an on-site investigations. The plane was seen having engine trouble, and preliminary examinations also say the pilots received a bird strike warning from the ground control centre and issued a distress signal as well. But many experts say the landing gear issue was likely the main cause of the crash. I'm Charles De Ledesma.
When we return on America in the Morning, gun amnesty for this U.S. city after these messages. This is America in the Morning. Welcome back. Residents of Columbus, Georgia, a town near Jimmy Carter's hometown of Plains, are remembering the interactions they had with the former commander-in-chief. Correspondent Hayapan Juani reports.
Robert Watkins Jr., who remembers his grandmother being invited to Carter's inauguration, remembers how accessible the former president was to those who lived in the area.
I think everybody's grandmother was invited to the inauguration, though. Everybody has a Rosalind Carter story or a Jimmy Carter story, kind of personally interacting with them, and that makes it, so much more impactful.
And Zoe Decker, who was raised in Columbus and recently moved back, said Carter made more of an impact after his presidency.
The work he's done around the globe and, operating within our system to try to make the world better, there's benefits and drawbacks to working within the system, but if that's the if that's the way you choose to operate, I think he did that the best.
I'm Hayapan Juani.
The city of New Orleans is giving residents an opportunity to trade in their firearms. Correspondent Lisa Dwyer reports.
The city of New Orleans and local community groups are offering play stations to people willing to turn in their guns as part of a series of gun buybacks over the past 6 months. The trades are intended to improve public safety, even as Louisiana loosens gun ownership requirements. In August, the state enacted a law allowing most people 18 or older to carry concealed guns without permits. Community leaders with local nonprofit Unchained Realities say they hope that by providing gaming systems to residents, that it will open up new opportunities. I'm Lisa Dwyer.
In case you haven't heard it already, Happy New Year! America in the Morning for Wednesday, January 1st, 2025 is produced by Alexander Hinton. Our senior producer is Kevin Delaney. I'm John Trout. This is Westwood One. This is America in the Morning from Westwood One. Happy New Year. I'm John Trout. Here's what's coming up on America in the Morning.
A massive power outage in Puerto Rico. I'm Clayton Neville.
Some Republicans are raising concerns about re-electing Mike Johnson as Speaker of the House. I'm John Stolness in Washington.
The woman burned alive on a New York City subway train has been identified. I'm Pamela Furr.
The DOJ sues an online lender named Dave. I'm tech correspondent Chuck Palm.
A thief swiped $13 million in jewels, handbags, and cash from a London mansion. I'm Ed Donahue.
What are some of the New Year's resolutions from the world of entertainment? I'm Kevin Carr.
All ahead on America in the Morning. This is America in the Morning. Feet of snow are predicted for some areas of the Northeast. Here's today's national forecast from AccuWeather.com meteorologist LaTroy Thornton.
After an extended period of mild to at times warm weather for many parts of the Great Lakes, Mid-Atlantic, and the Northeast, the latest cold front sweeping off the East Coast will be the one to finally pull in enough cold air to mean the return of significant lake effect snow. Of course, the recent mild conditions did not allow for much ice buildup on the Great Lakes themselves lately, now keeping them open for business this week as the Arctic air advances. Through Sunday, up to 2 feet of snow can fall around the Syracuse area of New York, as well as areas downwind of Lake Erie from far northeastern Ohio into far southwestern New York State, mainly for locations inland from Interstate 90. Zones of at least 3 to 6 inches of snow should include places such as southwestern and northern lower Michigan and much of the I-81 corridor in New York. Otherwise, look for rain showers to linger from the New York City area north and eastward today, with some steady rain from southeastern New England along the coast of Maine. Precipitation may be a rain-snow mix from parts of Maine just away from the coast to northeastern Pennsylvania, as the mid-Atlantic instead dries out today. Dry conditions also spread southward along the remainder of the East Coast and through a good majority of the southeastern states, as moisture levels drop off quite nicely while behind the cold front. An area that does look active to start the new year is the west, particularly the northwest once again, where another storm passing through the region will bring widespread snow showers from the northern and central Rockies towards some of the highest ground of western Colorado. Showers of rain and mountain snow can be expected across much of western Washington, with some steadier precipitation likely from Oregon southward into far northern portions of California. That's the weather across America. I'm AccuWeather.com meteorologist LaTroy Thornton.
Remember to follow us wherever you get your podcasts: Apple, Spotify, Amazon, and YouTube. Just search America in the Morning in your favorite listening app. I'm John Trout. Fireworks, concerts, the ringing of pots and pans. Americans from coast to coast ring in the new year. But the folks in Puerto Rico have been left in the dark. Correspondent Clayton Neville reports.
Luma Energy is responsible for power distribution on the island of Puerto Rico. About 90% of customers lost power early New Year's Eve morning. Millions in the dark. Hospitals and other critical infrastructure had power restored hours later, but complete restoration will take some time. It's the most recent failure in Puerto Rico's power system, which has proved unreliable in recent years, causing residents to be worried about the territory and how it's structured. While the exact cause of the outage is still under investigation, the power company thinks there was an issue with an underground line. In a statement, Luma Energy said that the operations center is working to restore the electrical system and power to the island as quick as it can. The full restoration will take a day or two. The collapse of the grid in Puerto Rico 7 years ago after Hurricane Maria was considered the largest blackout in U.S. history, and the American government pumped billions of dollars into improved infrastructure. Challenges, though, are still evident. I'm Clayton Neville.
This Friday, House Republicans are expected to vote on whether Speaker Mike Johnson will hold on to his gavel. And there are signs his grip may not be strong. Correspondent John Stolnis has more from Washington.
With a razor-thin margin in Congress, some House Republicans are voicing concern about Johnson's ability to lead them when they're gavelled in on Friday. Republican Congressman Chip Roy is chair of the influential House Freedom Caucus and told Fox Business yesterday Johnson's hold on the speakership is tenuous at best.
Right now I don't believe that he has the votes on Friday, and I think we need to have the conference get together so that we can get united. And people say, well, Chip, who would you choose otherwise? There are a lot of great members of Congress. Mike's a friend, and maybe he can answer the call and he can deliver an agenda and a plan.
Roy and other spending hawks are upset Johnson agreed to numerous budget deals with Democrats last year and just before the holidays to avoid a government shutdown.
I remain undecided, as do a number of my colleagues, because we saw so many of the failures last year that we are concerned about that might limit or inhibit our ability to advance the president's agenda.
Johnson did receive a boost from President-elect Trump, who told reporters outside a New Year's Eve party at Mar-a-Lago that Johnson, quote, is the one who can win right now, and even offered to make calls to skeptical Republican lawmakers to encourage them to support Johnson retaining his speakership. Republican Congressman Thomas Massie has already said he will not be supporting Johnson, meaning Johnson can only lose one other Republican and still keep his gavel. Congresswoman Victoria Sparks tells Fox Business she's not sure how she's leaning.
I look at people's track record, and unfortunately, we will not be able to deliver on President Trump's agenda, as the same happened in 2016, because it has to be done legislatively if we don't have speaker with the courage, vision, and a plan. And if Speaker Johnson wants to be a speaker, then he needs to lay out that plan and commit to that plan, not like what he did last year.
The resignation of Matt Gaetz leaves the House with 219 Republicans and 215 Democrats. Elon Musk has also said he's backing Johnson, but it remains to be seen if it will be enough. John Stolnis, Washington.
The identity of the woman who was burned alive while sleeping on a New York City subway train has been released. Correspondent Pamela Furr has details.
Her name was Debrina Kawam, and at a press conference Tuesday, Mayor Eric Adams says
she resided in New Jersey. She had a brief stint in our homeless shelter system, our shelter system.
The woman had been sleeping on a stationary train at a Coney Island stop in Brooklyn when an illegal from Guatemala set her on fire. He's been charged with first and second-degree murder as well as first-degree arson.
People should not be sleeping on subways and on streets of the city of New York, and we should not wait until they commit a crime like burning an innocent person or shoving someone on the subway before we say we have a problem.
Adams goes on to say these kinds of high-profile cases are overshadowing the fact that crime is down.
With some high-profile incidents, and, we're really disturbed about. But overall crime is lowest. And actually, if you take away the 2 years of COVID, I think 2021, the last time crime was this low in our subway system was in 2009.
Adams highlighting the crime drop as a man was pushed onto subway tracks, taken to a nearby hospital in critical condition. Police do have a man in custody in that case. I'm Pamela Furr.
1980s cold case murder solved when America in the Morning continues after these messages. I'm John Trout. Welcome back. You're with America in the Morning. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin has lost his bid to throw out plea deals for the man accused of being behind 9/11. Correspondent Sagar Magani explains.
The deals announced late last summer would have the three men plead guilty in exchange for being spared possible execution. Supporters of the agreement saw them as a way to resolve the troubled case against the men at Guantanamo Bay, where pretrial hearings have been underway for more than a decade. But Austin quickly said he was nullifying the deals, arguing he should have the authority to decide on any such arrangements. The White House said it was his call.
This was something for the secretary to make, and he made it.
But defense lawyers said Austin did not have the legal authority to make it, and a military appeals court has now ruled against his effort, putting the agreements back on track. Austin could still take his bid to a federal appeals court. Sagar Meghani, Washington.
A man already incarcerated for kidnapping and rape now faces new charges in a case that authorities originally said was faked by the victims. With more on the case, here's Correspondent Donna Warder.
Matthew Mueller is already serving a 40-year prison term for kidnapping a Northern California woman from her boyfriend's home in 2015 and 31 years in state prison for raping her. Now he's charged with two 15-year-old home invasion sexual assaults. Prosecutors allege that Mueller broke into a woman's home in Mountain View, California in September 2009, tied her up and made her drink medications. Mueller allegedly told the woman he was going to rape her, but she convinced him not to. A similar incident happened the following month in Palo Alto, California. In the crime for which Mueller is already serving time, authorities first accused the victim and her boyfriend of faking the abduction after she turned up 2 days later outside her father's apartment, just hours before the boyfriend had told police that a ransom was due. Investigators dropped that theory after Mueller was arrested in Dublin, California for a similar home invasion. I'm Donna Warder.
A transgender lawmaker makes history on Capitol Hill. Correspondent Jennifer King reports.
Sarah McBride is making history coming from the Delaware State Senate to Washington to be sworn in as the first openly transgender person elected to Congress.
I didn't run to be a first. I didn't run to make history with an election. I ran to make historic progress.
Growing up in Wilmington, McBride practiced political speeches in her bedroom at a makeshift podium.
I've always known what my purpose in life was, and it was to do this work.
Her reception from congressional Republicans has been tumultuous. After McBride's election, House Speaker Mike Johnson announced a policy banning transgender people from using the single-sex restrooms and locker rooms in the U.S. Capitol that correspond to their gender identity. Some activists have criticized McBride for not fighting back more forcefully, but she says she will follow the rules.
There is so much joy and so much awe in having this opportunity, and I will not let anyone take that away from me.
Jennifer King, Washington.
DNA evidence has helped authorities solve a cold case murder from the 1980s. More on the investigation from correspondent Lisa Dwyer.
The beating death of 18-year-old Deborah Lee Miller went unsolved for 43 years. Now police say they know who the killer is. Mansfield Police Chief Jason Bauman.
The DNA evidence collected from multiple items, when analyzed alongside the findings in Detective Butler's investigation, establishes proof beyond a reasonable doubt that James Finesse committed the murder of Deborah Miller on April 29th. 1981.
As county prosecutors were preparing a case against Finesse, he was shot dead on November 18th in a Canton area motel standoff with federal marshals and local SWAT officers on unrelated federal gun charges. Sound courtesy WEWS-TV. I'm Lisa Dwyer.
Russia launches another drone and missile barrage into Ukraine. Correspondent Charles de Ledesma is following that story.
Russia's launched an aerial attack on Ukraine, striking the capital and other regions with multiple missiles and drones. Ukraine's Air Force reported a ballistic missile threat at 3 a.m. local time, with at least 2 explosions heard in Kyiv minutes later. Another missile alert was issued 5 hours later, followed by at least 1 explosion in the city. The Air Force also reported missiles and drones targeting several other regions of the country. Authorities in the northeastern Sumy region reported strikes near the city of Shostka, where the mayor says at least 12 residential buildings had been damaged, as well as 2 educational facilities. I'm Charles de Ledesma.
The online lending app named Dave is facing charges from the DOJ over misleading ads and hidden fees. Dave, the topic of today's Tech Report with our Chuck Palm.
The Department of Justice has filed a complaint against the digital lending company Dave and its CEO, Jason Willick. Dave is known as a company that offers consumers short-term cash advances through the mobile app. The government's lawsuit alleges that the public has been misled by its advertisements, claiming cash advances that don't charge hidden fees and lending amounts up to $500. The complaint further alleges that the defendants actually very rarely offer consumers anywhere near the advertised $500, and sometimes no money at all, but they do charge an express fee that is not advertised, and customers don't realize it until they get their statement from their bank. And to make matters worse, the government alleges that Dave automatically charges customers a reoccurring monthly membership fee without clearly and conspicuously disclosing material transaction terms and without providing simple mechanisms for the consumer to cancel those fees. Sound advice would be read all the fine print when borrowing from a digital app online. Find me on X at Chuck Palm.
There's a slew of college football games today across the nation. Getting after your morning sports report, here's our Robert Workman.
The college football playoff resumed last night with the first quarterfinal clash. Number 6 Penn State battered number 3 Boise State 31-14 at the Fiesta Bowl. Drew Aller had 3 scoring passes, and the defense held Heisman Trophy runner-up Ashton Jeanty to just 104 yards on 30 carries. The other quarterfinals ring in the new year today, starting in Atlanta with Texas and number 4 Arizona State in the Peach Bowl. Then it's out to Pasadena for Ohio State and number 1 Oregon at the Rose Bowl. And lastly to New Orleans, where Notre Dame meets number 2 Georgia in the Sugar Bowl. 4 other bowl games yesterday. The ReliaQuest Bowl in Tampa, last year's national champion Michigan upset number 11 Alabama 19-13. At the Sun Bowl in El Paso, Louisville survived a late rally by Washington to win 35-34. Orlando's Citrus Bowl, 20th ranked Illinois topped number 15 South Carolina to reach 10 wins for the first time since 2001. And at the Texas Bowl in Houston, LSU rolled over Baylor. NBA, the Cavaliers win their 8th straight 122-110 over the Lakers. Another milestone for LeBron James. A day after his 40th birthday, he becomes the first NBA player to appear in a game in his teens and his 40s. 7 wins in a row for the Timberwolves after they topped the Thunder 113-105. 40 points for Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Celtics slammed the Raptors 125-71. Toronto has dropped 11 in a row. Spurs sailed past the Clippers. Grizzlies shaded the Suns. Jaren Jackson Jr. had 38, and the Bucks got past the Pacers. College basketball, number 1 Tennessee topped Norfolk State to go 13-0. Number 7 Kansas, though, an upset victim at home against West Virginia. NHL, the Blues blasted the Blackhawks in the Winter Classic at Wrigley Field. Cam Fowler scored twice in his 1,000th NHL game.
It's pretty surreal. Obviously, going through a lot of emotions the last few weeks, getting adjusted to a new team, but could have asked for anything more for this experience, getting to share it with my family.
Maple Leafs beat the Islanders 3-1. They tie idle Florida for first place in the Atlantic Division. Capitals bounced the Bruins 3-1 to move back into first place in the Metro Division. That's Wednesday Sports.
It's 6 till when we return on America in the Morning. Grinch-like heist nets thieves multi-millions after these messages. This is America in the Morning. Thanks for listening. A thief, or thieves, managed to swipe $13 million worth of items from a mansion in London. More on the heist from Correspondent Ed Donahue.
A thief swiped $13 million in jewels, handbags, and cash from a London mansion. Among the items stolen were a 10-carat diamond ring, diamond earrings, and a clip studded with gold, diamonds, and sapphires. The owners of the estate, identified in British media as an Instagram influencer and her developer husband, were not home at the time, but employees were there, and surveillance footage shows a housekeeper had a near run-in with the armed intruder. The homeowners have offered a $628,000 reward for information that leads to the arrest and conviction of the suspect, and an additional reward of 10% of the value of recovered items. Also taken, $189,000 worth of handbags. I'm Ed Donahue.
It is that time for your New Year's resolution. Correspondent Kevin Carr lets us know what some celebrities are saying.
Some of the most popular New Year's resolutions include saving money, losing weight, and eating healthier. Celebrities, like anyone else, have their fair share of New Year's resolutions, so here are some of the promises they have made to themselves for 2025. Olympic medalist and Dancing with the Stars contestant Alona Marr told Parade magazine she's focusing on herself.
I think my resolutions have been saying yes to more things that I truly want and also saying no to things that I'm kind of iffy about.
Similarly, The Voice judge Reba McEntire told OK magazine she had a very general resolution, quote, to stay happy, healthy, and laugh a lot. Paul McCartney closed out 2024 with a message to fans on Spotify.
You've been fantastic. I love you and I thank you so much. So let's have a great new year. And it's a wrap.
But not all is wrapped up, because right before Christmas, the 82-year-old musician announced on his website that his New Year's resolution is to finish another album. Legendary country singer Dolly Parton told OK magazine she doesn't make resolutions, quote, because I always break them. Her sentiments were echoed by Abbott Elementary's Cheryl Lee Ralph via On the Red Carpet.
I never make resolutions. I don't believe in it, because the moment you say you're going to do something, you can be assured you're not going to do it.
And a real one, if you can believe it, comes from Travis Kelce, who vowed to no longer eat bacon. Oh, Travis, say it isn't so. I'm Kevin Carr.
Happy New Year, America in the Morning for Wednesday, January 1st, 2025 is produced by Alexander Hinton. Our senior producer is Kevin Delaney. I'm John Trout. This is Westwood One.